Right now on Sports Extra, the Falcons are in first place after taking down the Saints this afternoon. How can the Dirty Birds sustain this for the final 6 weeks of the season? Plus, more records set for the Georgia Bulldogs. They took down Georgia Tech this weekend. We're getting you ready for the SEC Championship game and give you our thoughts on the college football playoff picture. And we're giving thanks. We have plenty to be thankful for in Atlanta sports. My guests weigh in on what they're thankful for as Thanksgiving week comes to an end. It's Sunday night. We're staying up late. Sports Extra starts right now. Yes, sir! Welcome on in, everybody. Welcome to Sports Extra. I'm Reggie Chapman. The regular season for college football is officially in the books, and the Falcons are in first place. Safe to say it's been a crazy weekend here in the A. Let's get right into it, and let me direct your attention to this. The Falcons have taken over first place in the NFC South after taking down the rival Saints 24-15 out at the Benz. A great win for the Dirty Birds, whose season was arguably on the line this afternoon. But even though they're in first place, this team isn't getting ahead of themselves.
We got 6 games to go, right? And it'll feel like 6 lifetimes. I mean, it's just the National Football League. And, you know, the ebbs and flows. I mean, you call about a couple plays in the last 2 games, and we knew coming off from the bye week, you know, everything we talked about, you know, just some of the things logistically we want to do as a staff. We got plenty of stuff to work on, as always, but overall, good team won.
Oh, man, plenty to talk about. We're bringing out the big guns for this one. John Michaels in the building, as well as Cody Chaffins. Guys, John, you were there for the game, along with your buddies from the locker room. You guys had a box seat. I'm curious, what was your main takeaway, you and the boys, coming from watching that game?
Win's a win, and anytime you're able to beat the Saints, that's all that matters. It was not a pretty game. It was not the most aesthetically pleasing. Thank goodness for Jesse Bates. Can we re-sign him? I know you don't rip up contracts and give him more, but give him that. But you got the job done. The season you said might have been on the line. This season was over. You would have lost to the Saints today. You're 2 back, and they have the tiebreaker. It would have been all over with. But Jesse Bates came up huge, and the offense, when they needed it, did just enough.
Yeah, let's talk about Jesse Bates, why don't we? 12 tackles led the team, pass defended, interception, had that forced fumble. Cody, has he been the MVP of this season so far for this team?
No doubt. The beginning of the year, he was the MVP, but you paid $64 million, and he's lived up to it. Outstanding today. He also, like you said, it wasn't just the pick six. It wasn't just the forced fumble. He led the team in tackles. He's a safety that's not afraid to stick his nose in there. And talking to guys in the locker room afterwards, they all say what a leader he is on this team. And there's so many young guys on this Falcons team. To have somebody like that, a veteran, who can get in there and make plays and get everybody hyped, he is perfect for the Falcons. They're definitely getting their money's worth.
Now, that Falcons defense, they gave up 444 total yards, but just 15 points. They forced 5 field goals, no touchdowns on 5 red zone trips. John, I mean, this performance, I mean, where does this kind of stack up? I mean, how are they getting this done?
Well, it's a lot of glue. It's like MacGyver. Remember, he'd take an avocado, a snorkel, and some tape, and all of a sudden, you know, he comes up with a gun, whatever it may be. So what the Falcons did today, it was different guys all over the field. It was just when the Saints felt like they were going to make a play, the Falcons defense would come up and make a play, make a tackle, get some pressure. The only thing that annoyed me is, like, every time Taysom Hill was in, do you not realize the only thing they're going to do is run the ball with him? He can't throw. He's a big fullback, but shout out to those guys on the defensive side of the ball, getting it done without a Grady Jarrett and without a Troy Anderson, and here you are sitting at 5-6 and leading the division.
We got to talk about the offense. Bijan seemed like more of a focal point in this game. 16 carries, 91 yards, 3 receptions, 32 yards. Also had 2 total touchdowns. Cody, is Arthur Smith finally giving the fans and this team what they should have been doing all year long, just giving it to their first round back?
I think they finally figured out, that's what works. Give Bijan the ball. And maybe it took the bye week to do some of that self-scouting and realize, you know, and Arthur admitted this week, maybe he was trying to keep the carries down because he's a rookie and he's seen rookies burn out throughout the year. But I think all of that stuff is off now. And let's just use Bijan. Incredible catch on that passing. You know, credit to Desmond Ridder. He threw the 2 interceptions today, but he also laid that one in there for Bijan. Him coming around the corner, making men miss. This is exactly why you drafted him. He's been good so far.
I mean, how often do people talk about this team? You draft a bunch of guys on this roster, they get fantasy-wise, it makes sense, and then they've just not been given the ball. So
but I have to tell you, it's not fantasy football.
Yeah, I'm sure the fantasy owners at home are pretty excited. I'm not sure how many fantasy owners got Desmond Ridder, but he was all right. 13 for 21, 168 yards, 1 touchdown. He did have those 2 interceptions, which is kind of of what we've kind of come to expect from him, huh?
Yeah, but that's not what you want. I mean, if you want to go deeper, and obviously the playoffs is in your grasp. You've got 6 games left. If you win out, you're going to host a playoff game, probably against the Dallas Cowboys. If you want to win in the postseason, or really any time at any length, you cannot have a quarterback that gives away the ball like it's Halloween candy. And that's unfortunately Desmond Ridder. The first one, I had some people tweet me and say it may have been on Bijan. The ball was just overthrown. It was thrown too hard down by the red zone. The second one, he stared down the receiver on a deep comeback route, threw it right to Tyrann Mathieu. You can't have that. This game really should have been a Falcons 20 or 30-point victory because they were a lot better than the Saints for most of the game. Desmond kept them in it.
And look, 6 interceptions on the year, but he also has 6 passing touchdowns right at the end. He's got 4 rushing touchdowns, 2 fumbles. Cody, is this the ceiling for what he kind of is, and is that really what put a cap on what this team can really be going forward?
Yeah, I think so. Like John said, it's going to be what it is for the rest of the year. I don't see that Desmond Ridder getting benched wasn't going to change him giving the ball away. He kind of is what he is at this point. He's also, remember, still really technically a first-year starter. That's what first-year start. They're not all C.J. Stroud, right? So he's going to give the ball away. He does have those moments of brilliance, and Arthur Smith continues to praise, the guts he shows down the stretch in games, but it's just the silly things. You had a chance to double dip there at the end of the first half, getting the ball back in the second half, and you come up with 0 points on both of those possessions. I'm not sure he's going to change throughout this year because it's been the same pretty consistently throughout this season.
It's weird because, you mentioned C.J. Stroud. They saw C.J. Stroud. They saw Will Levis. They saw Josh Dobbs, who had shown up 5 days before. And I think that's probably what's made it a little bit more difficult watching Desmond Ridder try to play. But look, at this point, they won a day 3-0 in the division. They're leading the division, John. I mean, obviously that's a good thing, but it feels like they're kind of in a midway kind of limbo point now, right?
Yeah, but if you look ahead, you talked about bad quarterbacks. You're going to play Tim Boyle coming up next. I watched him on the day after Thanksgiving. My goodness, that is bad. You're going to get Baker Mayfield again. You get Bryce Young again. I mean, there are games that are there. This division is yours to win. You simply just don't beat yourself and you don't lose the quarterbacks that you shouldn't. You can go and get a playoff game. And I'll be honest, at this point, I don't care. We haven't had playoffs here since 2017. That's the last time this team went to the playoffs. They haven't had a home playoff game since they closed down the Georgia Dome back at the end of the 2016 season. I don't care if they go 9-7, 9-8, 7-10, just make it to the postseason.
5-6 on the year. Up next, facing off against the 4-7 Jets at MetLife. That's obviously a game they should be able to kind of pull out, right? What are they going to need to do to get it done?
Well, the Jets are just so strong on the line of scrimmage, both lines of scrimmage. And credit to the Falcons' offensive line. There was something in the bye week that they found. And Arthur Smith talked about maybe they put on full pads on Wednesday this week, and they went kind of Georgia Bloody Tuesday on Wednesday, and it really inspired the offensive line. But they're going to have to be very good again against the Jets because they're so strong on the line of scrimmage. And like John said, also just duct taping that defensive line together. They got to figure out ways to make plays, and they can bend, just don't break.
One of my favorite things is like when something good happens, you say we're back, and then when something bad happens, you say it's all over. It feels like all season long it's been over, and right now they might be back. We'll see going forward. All right, one team that's definitely back all year long. Coming up, Georgia finished another regular season undefeated, but it was a great rivalry game between the Dogs and the Jackets. We're breaking it all down after the commercial break. Welcome back to Sports Extra, everybody. Rivalry weekend around the country, and we had some clean, old-fashioned hate at Bobby Dodd on Saturday night. Georgia held on to win 31-23 to win their 6th straight in the series over the rivals at Georgia Tech. Let's talk about it. Cody Chaffins, John Michael still in the building with me. Cody, I'll start with you on this one. 12-0 in each of the last 3 seasons. They haven't lost a regular season game in what feels like forever. How impressive is that?
It's mind-blowing because you think about it, these are college students, right? 18 to 22. You're going to have an off week. Georgia has been able to lock in, and it's because of the guy right there. Kirby Smart has his team so locked in for all these games that even the games where maybe they don't play great for 3 quarters, they find ways to win football games. And yeah, I was there for some lean times at Georgia. Losses to Vanderbilt on homecoming, but it's so much fun to watch this team just rolling through everybody right now.
They set an SEC record as well, 29 straight wins, more than those legendary Alabama teams. John, we look at the history of this conference. Is this the greatest dynasty in SEC history?
I'm going to go one step further. If they finish this and go 15-0, it's the greatest dynasty dynasty we've seen in the history of college football. I don't care about what Bud Wilkinson did back with 47 straight wins at Oklahoma in the 40s and 50s or whenever that was. I've seen some great college football where Florida State had 15 straight years in the top 5. That's all great. You win 3 back-to-back national championships. You continue to run through this conference where there hasn't even been many close games throughout the regular season. Kirby will have the greatest dynasty in the history of college football, and I know it's going to make all the people that are coming into town this week in Tuscaloosa really upset that it ain't them.
Look, let's talk about how they got it done over the weekend. They didn't pass the ball a lot. It was cold, and they gave the ball on the ground, 262 rush yards. Kendall Milton had himself a day, man. 18 carries, 156 yards, 2 touchdowns. I mean, how big is that for this team that needs to be able to do it all?
There's been something about Kendall Milton the last few. I think it started senior day at Ole Miss. He was out there on the field with his family and Kirby Smart, and maybe it just clicked for him. Like, my career at Georgia is coming to an end, and he has been running really angry the last few games for Georgia. He's not avoiding contact. He's seeking contact. In the last couple of years, he's been a guy that would always get tackled at the 1, couldn't finish the run and score the touchdown. That's not him right now. He is running through people. It was kind of shades of Todd Gurley to me watching him the last 2 weeks. Maybe it's the dreads coming out of the back of the helmet, but he has looked like a whole different person from his entire Georgia career.
Yeah, and it looks good too, especially at this time where they had multiple guys missing. No Earl Thomas, no Lai McConkey, no Brock Bowers, but they will likely have all those guys back for the upcoming SEC championship game here in Atlanta this upcoming weekend against Alabama. It's the matchup we've been waiting for all season long, John.
Yeah, it absolutely is. I mean, Alabama's gotten hot. They got a little bit lucky. I'll be honest, Hugh Freeze rushed more than 2 for the love. I'm not sure what you're doing, but this is the matchup everybody's been waiting for. It's simple. Win and you're in for Georgia. I still think lose and some other things happen, and the Dogs are still going to make it back to the college football playoffs. But you're always measured against Nick Saban and Alabama. And Alabama, from the early season loss to Texas till now, has grown week by week. You know they're going to be really good in the trenches, both offensive and defensive line. They've got a quarterback who can run around and make plays in Jalen Milroe, but I still think the Dogs here in Atlanta, 65% Georgia fans, they're going to walk away and go to the college football playoffs as the number 1 seed.
It's going to be a whole lot of fun, I'll tell you that much. I feel like we definitely need to talk about Georgia Tech, though. They were the closest team to get to beating Georgia this entire season, just points-wise, and it's been an impressive year. They finished 6-6. They're headed to a bowl game the first time since 2018. What's maybe been the most impressive part of the season?
They're back to running the ball. It is kind of Paul Johnson days, and when you have Brent Key, who's an offensive lineman, that's what they want to do. And the greatest thing for Georgia Tech, all those guys, Haynes King, Jamal Haynes making plays, Eric Singleton making plays yesterday, none of those guys were out for senior day. They're all coming back, assuming they don't enter the portal in this new era. But all of those guys are young guys. They're going to be able to build on that. Brent Key, who's really focused on recruiting and learned from the best with Nick Saban over at Alabama, is going to bring in bigger and bigger guys, which is going to help this team. I think they've kind of established an identity of being a running team. Even with Haynes King, who can spin it, they're a running team now, and that's only going to help them win games moving forward. That can build some consistency there.
I think the cool part about it is, because I'm a big Brent Key guy now, I think when you watch Jeff Collins, he talked a lot of game. It never really panned out for it, but it seems like things have been going really well. What has been your favorite part about the Brent Key era so far?
Just growth and playing in big games. I mean, you think about how many years Georgia Tech's played a big game, and whether it's North Carolina or Georgia, and they lose 45-10. And you go, my goodness, how do you build this? Think about what they've done this year. Louisville, a team that finished 10-2. If it's not for a late turnover, Georgia Tech wins the game. They beat Miami down there. They bludgeoned North Carolina here. They played Georgia to within a touchdown. And now you're going to a bowl. And it doesn't matter if you're playing in the Pinstripe Bowl or if you're playing in the Duke's Mayo Bowl. It's just a chance for 15 extra practices. And when people are going to be home watching your program, you now go to see this. Cody, I'll go even further. Not just a running team, an explosive team. Yeah. And I saw that there were so many years where Georgia Tech looked like they were running in mud. They don't seem that way anymore. They seem fast. They seem like they have athletes, and they got an attitude that they've needed. Now, if they could just learn to beat Bowling Green and beat teams like that, they could have been 8-4.
I know. It's incredible just to think. At certain points, it felt like this season could have been over for them. Right. And they managed to keep figuring it out. Now, you mentioned bowl games. There's 4 of them or 2 of them the biggest in the entire world. We've got playoffs currently coming. We're playoff committee hats on. Cody, I'll start with you on this. We all have Georgia at number 1. What about your other 3 picks?
I think you got to have Michigan number 2 after the win over Ohio State this weekend. Washington, you stay undefeated. You stay at number 3. And then Florida State, I think, bumps up now with Ohio State moving out there. I think Washington, Oregon, the winner of that one, obviously going to be in the playoff. Michigan, if they win, they're in the playoff. Florida State, Louisville's not an easy game, especially Tate Rodemaker taking over at quarterback now for Florida Florida State. We'll see what happens there. But I'm not so sure that Georgia can afford to lose the SEC championship game and still make the playoff. I think there's a lot of national Georgia fatigue, and they're going to want to see new blood. So any way they can get Georgia out of there, they will.
John, how about you?
I've got Georgia, obviously, number 1. I'm going to have Michigan at number 2. I had them out before this week, but you go win a game against Ohio State, you go to 2. Washington's got a great resume. They haven't played great football over the last 5 or 6 weeks, but they find a way behind Roma Dunze and Michael Penix. And Florida State, I know people are trying to push them out. Stop. They're an undefeated conference championship team. You cannot leave them out of the playoffs. If they win this week against Louisville, they're going to be in. Georgia might beat them by 40, but they'll make the playoffs.
See, but the crazy part is I'm actually going to say that they're going to lose that game this upcoming weekend. Louisville this upcoming weekend, they're a team that is just trying to fight back from what was a bad loss this last week. So I've got Michigan at 2. Washington, Michael Penix and them, I think, have done a good job. I think they'll manage to beat Bo Nix, mostly because I'm a Bo Nix hater. And I think Texas will manage to get in when Florida State ultimately loses this weekend. You lose your best player at quarterback, it makes things tough. So we'll definitely see. It's going to be a whole lot of fun regardless. Boy, what an exciting time it is in the college football world. All right, coming up, you might still be snacking on your leftover pie as you watch this, so we're giving thanks to everything that we're grateful for, all in the sports world. All that and more coming up after the break. Welcome back to Sports Extra, everybody. It's still Thanksgiving weekend, so it's time to give some thanks to the sports world that we love oh so much. Let's start with what we're thankful for in Atlanta sports. Cody, we'll start with you.
Atlanta sports, I'm thankful still for that 2021 Braves World Series win because it's really helped temper all these other disappointments out there, whether it's, the Falcons and what they've done, the Braves this year in the playoffs disappointing us, the Hawks underachieving. I still got that 2021 World Series win to fall back on.
For me, it's Ronald Acuna. I mean, anytime you have the best in the league and he wins an MVP and he does something that's never happened in 100 years of sports, going 40 and 70, I'm thankful. And I think Braves fans maybe underappreciate the greatness of that young man. It's awesome to see him day after day.
John, that was actually my answer, but because you picked it, I decided to pick one that I care about personally. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, I think, is the best stadium in all of sports. It's incredible just going to go as a fan. I mean, I think I spent, $50 trying to get food last weekend at the Warriors game in the Bay Area. You could get the same amount of food for, probably $7, it feels like. So Mercedes-Benz Stadium, you have everything. You got soccer, you got football. I think that's my best place. All right, let's move on to the college football. Cody, what are you most thankful for in the college football world?
I'm thankful for Georgia Tech. I've got family on both sides. They're still doing this thing. Watching other rivalries die this weekend as Oregon State don't know when they're going to play again. Some of those other ones. I'm thankful that we still got dogs and jackets. There's something special about that on Thanksgiving weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of piggyback on that. For me, it's just rivalry week in general. When you get Ohio State and Michigan to kick it off at noon, and I was up till, 1 o'clock in the morning watching Washington and Washington State in the Apple Cup, there is nothing better because that's the one time when a team that's 6-5, that season might be over with, they have something to play for. And again, Hugh Freeze, for the love, rush more than 2.
Yeah, it's incredible. College football rivalry weekend is some of the best stuff, especially because it comes during that Thanksgiving time where we get to sit at home and watch it. I mean, I'm watching the Egg Bowl, and I don't care about those teams at all. All right, so I'm going to get in my hater bag a little bit. I'm thankful for the firing of Jimbo Fisher. I'm a big Texas A&M hater. They are the rival school that LSU plays during this week. And look, man, I'm not going to feel bad for a guy that got $75 million. So I'm going to sit here on the show. I have my my little pedestal here. I'm going to take a second and say, hey, Jimbo Fisher, good luck, guy. Good riddance. You weren't good at the job. But I guess you have $75 million, so who is the real clown? It's probably me. Alrighty, let's talk about this. A little bit of wild card action, guys. We'll give you a little bit of extra time to talk about this one. Okay. Cody, anything in the world of sports, what are you most thankful for?
I would say having kids at press conferences. I can't get enough of it. Whether now, Arthur Smith bringing his little guy up for all his press conferences. You got Trey Young now has 2 kids. He can bring his kids up there. Any kids out there. It kind of all started with Steph Curry and his kids out there. But every time, I just can't get enough of Acuna bringing his kids up. I love it. Sometimes as a journalist, when I just need a quote, I kind of get aggravated a little bit, but it's just so cute. I can't get enough of it.
John, would you bring your son up there with you if you did a press conference? I mean, have you brought him to the set to do a show?
Yeah, I would bring him. He's old now. He's 14, so Kane
sit him on your lap.
Kane wouldn't sit on my lap. He'd be over here with headphones on. For me, it's just thankful for my love of the U. I know people in this town despise that I love the University of Miami the way that I do, but that's what I grew up with. Whether it's basketball, whether it's baseball, whether it's football, that's the team that really gets the juices flowing. Love the Falcons. Obviously, obviously care about the Hawks and the Braves, but nothing like a Saturday afternoon. If you ever follow me on Twitter, you'll understand why.
Well, John, what about this moment right here?
You had to show that one.
Well, no, I just asked the question. Are you thankful for this moment? It felt like kind of a turning point. You were on the show that week. That was incredible.
Yeah, I was not very happy. Mario, for the love, take a knee.
Hey, well, there's a lot of bad coaching blunders, man.
There is.
I do want to say what I'm most thankful for is that Jaden Daniels, because we're talking about teams that we love. I'm a big LSU guy, went to LSU. Jaden Daniels, okay? Best player in all of college football in a year where we 100% should be in the college football playoff, should be in the top 4. And for some reason, Matt House decided I don't want to have a good defensive structure to stop anybody. 700 yards versus Ole Miss is not going to get it done. I mean, you're fighting for your life every single week, it feels like. And Jaden Daniels it helped his Heisman campaign that he's had to put up 60 points a night. But thankful for him for saving what ultimately should have been an incredible season. I hope that he wins the upcoming
He will win the Heisman.
You think so?
I think so.
Is it not going to be Bo Nix?
Now I know why you hate Bo Nix.
Yeah.
It's all coming together now.
It's all coming together, baby. Jimbo Fisher, we beat him over the week. Well, he's gone now, but that was his team. Bo Nix, we got to get him out of here this upcoming week, and that's why I've got Washington in my Final Four.
There you go.
All kind of connects. Alrighty. All right, guys, thank you guys so much for that. I'm thankful for you both for coming on the show. There we go. All right, coming up, we wrap things up with our video of the week, 50 years in the making. You don't want to miss. That's next. All right, guys, final block. It's our video of the week, and I'll tell you, this was a really cool moment at the Falcons. They celebrated 50 years in hip-hop. It felt like they had every rapper in the world on that field pregame, and honestly, it was a lot of really cool moments, I think, in theory, but what we saw actually didn't end up that good. Both of you guys were at the game. Let's kind of break it down. John?
It was really disappointing when I didn't get to hear T.I. and they just played his music over him. It's a little disappointing when TLC came out a little bit late. I did like this Ludacris. That was really awesome seeing him performing, hanging from there. And then Jeezy was pretty cool the brief amount of time he was on camera. I like the idea, the execution, not so good.
Kind of like the Falcons season.
I loved seeing Bone Crusher. He killed it. He was probably the highlight of the day besides Luda falling from the ceiling. But Bone Crusher, man, with one song, had the whole place rocking. It was so much. I enjoyed that part, but it kind of felt like Dolly Parton in Knoxville, right? This great moment that should be that just got flubbed. CeeLo was supposed to do the national anthem. He's standing there and can't sing it.
What was better, this or Jack Harlow?
Jack Harlow's on a $3 set. That just was a disaster, but at least, look, we had all the artists here, and it was very Atlanta, so I really... The effort, I loved. The effort was there.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you guys so much for coming on the show. And thank you guys so much for watching. That's it for Sports Extra. Hope you guys have a fantastic week and enjoy the rest of your Thanksgiving weekend.